Believe it or not, it's been nearly 3 years since the last console Zelda Skyward Sword. Nintendo teased us back at E3 2011 with a then visually stunning Zelda technical demonstration, but it's been rather quiet since. All we know is that it's already in development and that supposedly we'll get our first glimpse at the game at this year's E3. Michael Damiani offers his sagely insight on what could be. The aforementioned tech demo got some of us excited about the visual capabilities of the Wii U, while more recently Mario Kart 8 dazzled us with its visuals, proving the console is capable of delivering stunning graphics. Zelda needs to push the hardware even further, and it's time for Nintendo to show us a truly gorgeous Hyrule. It's also time players had more input in the customization of the Hylian hero. Simply giving the hero a custom name doesn't cut it anymore. Nintendo needs to give the player the ability to fully customize their appearance, including selecting the character's gender. There's been plenty of demand for this in recent years, and it would be a serious oversight on Nintendo's part to ignore a large part of its fanbase. The Zelda team needs to look at what it did right in the recent A Link Between Worlds for the 3DS and go even further. The older 2D Zelda games had something that's been lacking from the more recent installments: a great sense of freedom to explore the world at your own leisure. This especially includes allowing you to tackle dungeons in a variety of ways and orders. However, instead of clearly marking where on the map the next objectives are, require players to seek out clues and explore the world by interacting with it in a more meaningful way. Perhaps talking with an NPC will deliver a quest line eventually leading to one of the game's dungeons. Just do something to make exploration feel more rewarding rather than it being the next obvious step through the game. Hyrule used to be one giant seamless environment that used challenging enemies to inform underpowered players that perhaps they should consider another path. This concept should sound familiar to anyone who's played one of From Software's Souls games. Zelda does not need to become Dark Souls, but it should look back to the original NES classic, where players had immediate access to almost the entire world. Unless you had a certain item or already knew what to do, straying into unfamiliar territory and ending up at a later dungeon soon spelled certain doom in The Legend of Zelda. These games don't need to hold our hand anymore, but rather embrace the sense of exploration that we loved about the older installments. And taking the world structure of A Link Between Worlds along with its new item system could be the key to rekindling that experience. The new Zelda should craft a world where you're free to go anywhere at any time. However, by having certain items, you can progress through areas more easily than others. Even without a particular item, progress could still be made, though it would be a far more treacherous affair. Finding shortcuts only possible with certain tools would also be a welcomed addition, rewarding those who sought out a certain item ahead of time and put it to good use. These useful treasures shouldn't only be locked away in dungeons. Instead of renting or purchasing them like you did in A Link Between Worlds, hide and scatter some of them throughout the overworld. They, in turn, could help access shortcuts and make traversal easier as mentioned, but they could also serve you well within dungeons. Having particular prizes within each dungeon could potentially grant you access to alternative paths. You could always clear a dungeon with the bare minimum, though it would be a more daunting task without the proper equipment. Side quests used to mean something in Zelda games, more than discovering an extra heart container. It'd be nice if optional content was woven into the fabric of the core storyline progression, and provided significant payoffs for those who followed these secondary threads to their conclusion. There was hope that Skyward Sword would finally realize this, but it fell short of expectations. Imagine initiating a quest line after finding a hidden village out in the world, which not only gave you more insight into the mythology of the world, but perhaps ended with you tackling a dungeon you'd otherwise never encounter. Sure, there would still be a basic set of requirements to completing the game, but what if there were extra dungeons or segments of the world you could outright miss? It would be another way to foster a great sense of exploration by offering significant payoffs. Finally, there's the subject of Zelda's mythology and storylines. Let's face it, the so-called Zelda timeline is screwed up, regardless of Nintendo's efforts to make sense of it all. At this point, the writers should just wipe the slate clean and be free to weave a new storyline not bound by the expectations of established lore. By planning out a more carefully considered narrative and cleverly embedding it into the world of Hyrule, players who desire a richer story would be rewarded. And for those who simply don't care about a timeline or connecting plot, just ignore it like you've always done. It's a win-win situation for everyone. This is a lot to process, and expecting much of this to happen in the next installment is a pipe dream. Realistically, we can expect to see elements of A Link Between Worlds find their way into the new game, but otherwise, we're in the dark about what we'll see in the new Zelda. If we finally do catch a glimpse of the new game at E3, Nintendo better have something truly amazing in store for us. We're likely only going to get a teaser at best, so don't expect anything playable on the show floor.